What's up everyone, Brenden here once again bringing you all another episode of Gaming Details. In this week's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Dark Souls games, which were suggested by YouTube user Bochi Dochi. Thank you so much for the suggestion, we really appreciate it. So without any further delay, let's jump right into the details. For the first detail on our list, we'll be taking a look at an enemy that can be found in all three Dark Souls games. If you played through them, you've without a doubt come across these bug-eyed frog-looking things that will spray gas out of themselves that curses you in like 2 seconds. These enemies are known as Basilisks, and while they can be annoying to face in large groups, they can be total pushovers when dealt with on their own. But this is Dark Souls we're talking about after all, so of course you'll hardly ever find them by themselves. One of the features that you'll notice right away about these enemies, however, is their enormous eyeballs on top of their heads. But believe it or not, these aren't their actual eyeballs at all, but fake ones rather, that act as intimidators. Their real eyeballs are just underneath the fake ones, as you can see in these images. And if you really want to be sure about this, head over to Dark Souls 2 where you'll find an extremely large one alone in a cage, where you can look at it up close and see its actual eyes. Up next, for our second detail, we're going to be loading up Dark Souls 3. As some of you may know, the Firekeeper that watches over Firelink Shrine in this game is blind. It is said in the lore that Firekeepers are forbidden to have eyes because they might see visions of the world without fire, and as a result betray their purpose. Something that you more than likely didn't notice is that if you get close enough to the Firekeeper and clip through her character model, you can see her eyes and that they are actually blinded. I always have to give credit to developers who put this amount of detail into things that they know will more than likely go undiscovered by a majority of players. Moving on to the next detail on our list, we'll be taking a look at one that can be found in all three games. Just about every video game you play these days allows you the option to adjust certain settings in order to give you the experience that suits you best. One of the most common adjustable settings is of course the game's brightness, and most developers handle this in the same way by simply putting a bar with a lighter and darker color at either end, and having you adjust it until you're happy with the brightness. Dark Souls was a little more clever with handling this. They tell you to adjust the brightness until the flame is visible and the dragon is invisible. In the game's lore, the Age of Fire came after the gods slayed the dragons, so it's fitting that as the flame grows brighter, the dragon begins to fade. Up next, heading on to our fourth detail, we're going to load up Dark Souls 1, and we'll be talking about one of the enemies in specific, which are the ghosts. These enemies can be found in the New Londo ruins, which for those of you unfamiliar with the lore, was once a prosperous city that had to be flooded due to the four kings falling to the dark, ultimately killing all those who inhabited it, turning them into ghosts. One of the things you'll notice about these enemies, if you're unfortunate enough to get close to them, is that some of them are carrying babies, which are also used as catalysts to cast lightning spells. Moving on to the next detail, we'll be continuing in the first Dark Souls. At the very start of the game, we get our first look at the chosen undead, who appears to have been locked away in a cell for what may have been quite some time. Inside of the cell, we can pretty much see that the only things in there are a few small piles of hay, maybe a few rats, some bags, and the cold cobblestone floor. There's also one more thing in there to be noted, which appears to be a jar that the chosen undead has been using as a toilet. If we go up to the wall to allow the camera to see a little bit overhead, we can see that inside of the jar is filled with some waste. Heading over to our sixth detail, we'll be loading up Dark Souls 3. In the game, if the player becomes hollowed, you may notice that the Ashen One casts no shadow. A very fitting detail considering how the game portrays the process of hollowing, where the person becoming a hollow loses parts of their memory each time they die, making them literally a shadow of their former self. Up next, in all of the Dark Souls games, only the most ancient characters speak in antiquated English, while the rest speak in a more modern type of English. For example, take a look at the way Solaire speaks.
So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment.
Pretty modern and easy to understand. Now for comparison, let's take a look at some of the characters from the ancient land of Ulcio.
'Tis good to see ye in good health. What needs smithing this day?
Kind of sounds like a Shakespeare play rather than a normal character. Even some of the ancient gods, like Gwyndolin, speak like this using words like thee, thy, art, thou, and many others. Such a small detail that many other AAA game developers wouldn't have thought to put in, but it makes so much sense. Moving on to our eighth detail, we'll be headed back to Dark Souls 3. In the previous games, we've seen particle effects being used for flames, spells, and the environment for different areas of the game. But there's something unique about them in Dark Souls 3. In this game, particle physics can be altered by things in the surrounding area, such as wind, attacks, or even enemy movement. And now for our final detail, we'll be continuing in Dark Souls 3. Most Dark Souls players may know who Patches is, but for those of you who don't, he's basically just a dick. That's it. But there's something interesting about his dialogue in this game, and it's that he says different things to certain character types, and also if certain things have been completed in the game or not. For example, when walking across the bridge in the Cathedral of the Deep, Patches will lower it and say,
"Well, say hello to the nice giant. He adores visitors."
However, if you've already killed the giant, he will then say,
"Where's the old giant?" "What? Where's the bloody giant? Just what have you done?"
He will also have different lines for you depending if your character is male or female, and also if they're a certain type of class. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Gaming Details. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can be notified as soon as our latest videos come out. If you have a suggestion for a future episode of Gaming Details, leave it in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.